Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out to our candidate forum. We're going to get started in a few minutes. If everybody can please find a seat, including candidates. If you could find your way to the stage, please, and find your seat. Yeah, that's what I'm about to. I go. See, we got some people in the village in here. I love it. I go. Okay, so if everybody can please find your seat, we're going to get started in a couple minutes. Candidates as well, please find your seats. Your name tag is on the chair. Once everybody's seated, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this important gathering. My name is Kwesi Lowe, and I am honored to represent Columbus Stand Up in this coalition of community organizations that made tonight possible. A special thank you to Pastor Ellis. If you want to come up and give us a couple words so we can get things started. And the New Birth family as well.
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? All right, now you know you never give a pastor a mic, especially in their church, but I want to welcome everybody out to New Birth Christian Ministries. I serve as the lead and senior pastor here, and we're excited about tonight. And, you know, one thing I would tell you, in the book of Nehemiah, it shares a very short story about a young man named Nehemiah. And Nehemiah, he worked for the king. He was living a good life. He had a great life. His situation was good. But he learned that in his own home city, the walls were torn down, which meant that the people that lived in that city were not protected. They didn't have the same luxuries that he had. And the Bible tells us that Nehemiah wept. He was upset. He had empathy. Even though his situation was great, he had empathy for those who needed help. So what I want to say in this room tonight is I can't be happy until we're all happy. I'm not free until we're all free. And so we're going to have some good discussion tonight. I appreciate everybody being here, appreciate Columbus Stand Up. And again, welcome to New Birth Christian Ministries. Whatever you need, we're here for you. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for those words, and thank you again for allowing us to use the church to have this forum so we can hear from our candidates. Now, tonight is not just a forum. It's a celebration of our collective power. It's a reminder that when we stand together, we can demand accountability, transparency, and action from those who seek to represent us. This is democracy in action, and it starts right here, right now, with all of you. We are here because our city and schools are at a crossroads. The decisions made by the Columbus City Council and Columbus School Board impact every single one of us, our families, our neighborhoods, and our future. These decisions shape the quality of the education our children receive, the safety of our streets, the affordability of our housing, the opportunities available to every resident of Columbus. And like many of you, I am deeply concerned about the direction of our nation, and I would like to be able to look at the city of Columbus as a refuge during this time of uncertainty, and a place being run with decency and order. Tonight we'll hear from candidates running for Columbus School Board and Columbus City Council District 7. These races are critical because they shape the policies that directly impact our daily lives. Columbus City schools have struggled in key areas that reflect the quality of education being provided to our children. Literacy rates, graduation rates, and college and workforce readiness, to name a few. While City Council doesn't provide us with such neat report cards, we can gauge their performance by evaluating public safety, the availability of true affordable housing, and the overall attitude held by the average citizen. By any measure on both accounts, there's significant room for improvement. As a Columbus City School dropout who later earned a bachelor's degree from The Ohio State University, I can personally speak to the feeling of not being seen or invested in by the adults who were tasked with my education. I know what it's like to want to succeed, but to be labeled as a problem instead. But I was one of the lucky ones. I had people in my life like my father who challenged me to aim higher. Now as a substitute teacher in the district, I see firsthand the challenges facing our schools. It's disheartening to witness the despair felt by parents, students, and staff alike. The situation is dire, and we urgently need leadership in the district that understands how to steer us in the right direction. Now let's talk about city council and these district maps. If you've ever tried to figure out which district you're in, you know how it feels. It feels less like looking at a map and more like a game of chance, as if someone threw darts at a board while blindfolded. In the spirit of Black History Month, I want to give a shout out to Ray Charles. I believe he probably could have made maps that made a little bit more sense. But that's the thing. So the confusion that they're causing Columbus voters is not a laughing matter. We navigate every obstacle placed in our path by forces that want to keep us at bay. Community engagement events like this is where we reclaim the power through focusing our collective voice and speaking truth to power. That begins tonight, and as we get to know our neighbors who have chosen to seek public office, ensuring that we elect those who will carry out the agenda of the people and not private interests. With all of the uncertainty and chaos in national politics right now, it is easy to feel powerless, but that's exactly why local elections are so important. What happens here in Columbus and our city council and school board affects our daily lives more directly, and we have an opportunity to affect who those decision makers will be. This is the first local election following a presidential election, and now is the time to start to make decisions on how we want our next 4 years to be. It's up to us. The next election will always be more important than the last one. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this is a nonpartisan event, and we extended invitations to candidates from both parties, albeit to no avail. We are dedicated to ensuring that Columbus voters are able to hear from all candidates from all parties. Our community is not a monolith. Okay, so to the candidates, we welcome you and thank you for participating. We appreciate your willingness to engage with the community and to answer our questions. This is your chance to introduce yourself to the voters. But let me be clear. It's no mistake that in the rules that were provided that you only have 3 rules. Follow the moderator's instructions, follow the timekeeper's instructions, and have respect. I put that in there lightly because honestly, I want the people to know exactly who you are. To everyone in the audience, I encourage you to listen closely, take notes, and think critically about what you hear tonight. There are a few of you who will be asking questions directly, maybe. Please be concise should that opportunity arise. Lots of people, lots of questions, but please be concise if you do find yourself asking a question to the candidates. Now I'd like to introduce the moderators. I'll get out of the way. Who will guide us through tonight's discussion. First, for Columbus School Board portion of the forum, we have Martin Davis, a longtime Columbus stand-up volunteer and a parent of children entering school age. As such, he is personally invested in advocating for equitable and high-quality education in our city. Also, quite a researcher. Please welcome Martin Davis. Our second moderator for school board is Adriana Gordon, the president of Central Ohio Young Black Dems. Adriana is a fierce advocate for justice and equality and community empowerment. I had the pleasure to attend a forum she moderated last year for the prosecutor's race in the primary election. Adriana, thank you for being here tonight. And can we give Adriana a warm welcome? Okay, so this is your show. Ask tough questions, probe for clarity, and don't shy away from holding our candidates accountable. We're counting on you to ensure that we have a meaningful and impactful conversation. One last thing, if you have questions written on a card, please make sure that we pass that in. And if you have anybody that's live streaming from afar, let them know that they can find it at columbusdistricts.com. And with no further ado, let's get to the forum.
Thank you, Percy. Testing.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Kwesi. What an awesome introduction. So I want to give you all a quick overview of what's going to happen tonight on the school board portion of this. So we're going to do a lightning round first. We'll ask the candidates yes/no questions. We'll ask them to raise their hand for yes, ask them to raise their hand for no. Trying to get through that quickly. There's a lot of great questions we put in tonight to try to make that a yes/no. Then I'm going to ask a question. We're going to give each candidate 1 minute to respond to that question. Adriana's going to ask a question. We're going to give each candidate 1 minute to respond to that question. And then those note cards we just talked about, I'm going to be walking around as Adriana's asking her last question, figuring out who two people are that are going to get to ask. Oh, sorry. So after we ask our questions as moderators, I'll be walking around during Adriana's questions, trying to find two people to ask their questions to our candidates. And at the end, they'll get a minute to wrap up and kind of tell you about themselves at the end. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and do intros for each candidate. 1 minute, please. Yeah, go ahead.
You want us to come up there or sit here in our seats? Are you starting there?
Alphabetical?
Alphabetical.
Oh, sorry, before you start. Oh, sorry, one other thing. There's a lot of candidates, right? Okay. I tried to make this easy for you. If you open this pamphlet, I've got every single candidate in alphabetical order for you. I've also got general responsibilities and roles of board members because 2 weeks ago, I was like, sure, I'll moderate this. Now I'm like, wow, I had no clue what a school board member does. So definitely encourage all of you to look at the front. That's your bullet points right now. Look at the back tonight when you go home. Really learn in depth and figure it out. And now you have a way to keep notes. So sorry, without that further ado, Liz couldn't come, right? All right, so Teresa, can you get us started?
Are we sitting here to do our intro or are we going to the podium?
Yeah, sit right there. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa. Excuse me, can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Hanna, and I am the founder of Step Forward LLC Education Support Services. I am running to be a voice for students, parents, educators, and our community. Our schools are facing serious challenges, students falling behind, families feeling disconnected, and untapped opportunities are slipping away. I believe every student deserves a high-level education that prepares them for leadership, but also to be successful beyond high school. We need fresh leadership that truly puts our kids first. I'm ready to take on the mantle of leadership. I bring over 30 years of professional work experience, and also beyond that, I have a life of experience. These roles shape my deep commitment to education and community. I believe in improving literacy and graduation rates, expanding career and technical education, but also empowering families and strengthening school ties. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Katzenmeyer. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm here today because I believe in our public schools. My wife and I currently have 2 kids in CCS with a third who will be starting in the fall. We will have children in the district for the next 14 years. And I believe all children should have access to great public schools. Just a quick background on myself. I graduated from OU, and I'm proud to say that my first job was working under then Minority Leader Joyce Beatty in the Ohio House of Representatives. I worked in Ted Strickland's office while going to Ohio State at night to get my MBA, and then I was the policy director for the Obama campaign, the Obama re-election campaign in Ohio. For the last 10 years, I've been utilizing my MBA by managing the planning, design, and construction of complex public sector facilities for local governments and nonprofits, things like rec centers, early learning centers, libraries, city halls, and cultural facilities. I have a long history of supporting progressive and union causes, but I decided to run for office myself because, first and foremost, I'm a dad, and we have kids in the district, and I've had a front row seat to some serious and harmful missteps in the process
That's
to
time,
close
sir.
CCS
Time.
schools last year. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Jermaine Kennedy, and I'm a educator, youth advocate, and community leader with over 20 years of experience working in and outside of education. I've served as a teacher, principal, youth development leader, and currently I work with the Boys and Girls Club, providing program and partnerships to provide critical resources to our young people across the city. I've also served as a family ambassador and PTA member up in the district, and most importantly, I have two students, two sons in the district, one a recent graduate, and the other is currently a junior. I know firsthand the challenges that our families, our educators, as well as our students face in this district. I've seen when students are supported and have access to strong teachers, strong community partnerships, as well as real opportunities. And I've also seen when they don't have that. I'm running for the Board of Education to help ensure that every student, regardless of their orientation, their zip code, or their native language, has access to resources, supports, and pathways for them to be successful. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janice Keys, and I am running for Columbus City School Board because every child deserves the opportunity to succeed. As a mother of 4 Columbus City School graduates, I know firsthand the challenges families face. I've raised my children as a single mom, working multiple jobs, and I've seen the power of education transforming lives. My children's success as a valedictorian, a nurse, a mechanic, and a self-sufficient adult proves that all things are possible if people or children are being supported. Now, I have 2 grandchildren who are in Columbus City schools. My commitment to ensuring that strong schools are relevant for them is so important. Professionally, I'm the Director of Provider Experience for the state of Ohio. I have developed data-driven initiatives, led engagement initiatives, and built collaborative strategies. These will help with attendance, student engagement, and academic achievement. Columbus families deserve safe, high-quality schools that prepare students for lifelong success. I'm ready to advocate for our students, support our educators, and engage our families to make that happen. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Lumpkin, and the reason I'm running, I'm not a politician. I'm a young lady that believes in a high-value education. I worked 34 years at the Ohio Attorney General's office. In those years, I did Ohio Reads. I also did court-appointed special advocate. I have a granddaughter right now that is in Columbus Public Schools. My main thing is, I don't believe that you need to move to New Albany, Upper Arlington to get a good value education.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Munir Lynch. I'm a health educator. I'm an East Sider, and I'm a proud product of Columbus City Schools, Cosmic Scholars. I'm the son of an immigrant from Morocco. I'm the grandson of coal miners from Kentucky, and I'm running for school board because public schools everywhere are under attack. They're being scapegoated right now all across this country. I still believe in their power, and I recognize our challenges. I've taught and I've learned in classrooms where the heat doesn't work in the winter. I dodged ceiling tiles on my way to class, Even at Cause, one of the highest performing, one of the highest resource buildings, we struggled with the basics. And today it hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. And while public schools are under attack from multiple angles, whether it's voucher scams or anti-LGBTQ policies in the state and in federal government, this board has failed to fight or listen to our families. I've seen teacher strikes, I've seen staff burnout, kids left behind in classrooms where nobody speaks their language, and I've seen a school board that puts corporations and luxury developers over our families and our communities. As a public health, thank you, as a public health professional, educator,
That's
and
time,
community
sir.
advocate, thank you for the opportunity.
Sorry.
I know, but we got to do it. You're doing great.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Kimberly Mason. Good evening, everyone. I'm running again for Columbus City School Board of Education. I've had the privilege of running in 2019 and fell a little short in some of the initiatives regarding just building community trust, leveraging our education system, and just building an overall quality system have yet to be championed. And so I'm back here again to try to work, earn your vote, and be your local community candidate. I live on the South Side. I'm a former PTO president at my son's school, have a fourth grader, and from my day-to-day, just understanding the importance of mental health, social services, workforce development, and succession planning. So I look forward to getting a chance to learn, grow, and listen to you over the next 10 weeks, and hope I have the opportunity to serve you in the future.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Antoinette Miranda, lifelong resident of Columbus, Ohio, married to a teacher and coach who's been in Columbus City Schools for 35 years, mother of 2 children who attended and graduated from Columbus City Schools. I'm a professor of school psychology, the chair of the Department of Teaching and Learning at The Ohio State University in my 37th year. I have engaged in research that was laser focused on urban schools and really looked at how can urban schools champion and do well and help students succeed academically as well as behaviorally. I was an elected state school board member, served 8 years, finished my term in December, and what I know is legislation and policy and how it affects our schools both negatively as well as positively. I have extensive leadership experience, extensive knowledge, both breadth and depth with education, and I believe that I can make a difference on the Columbus City School Board with that, with my knowledge, and I look forward to doing it. I have been committed to Columbus City Schools since being at Ohio State and have done a myriad of projects with Columbus City Schools. So I look forward to serving as one of your board members.
Thank you. Shout out to our candidates, y'all. We have a lot of good people on the ballot, and me and Martin are going to try to get y'all well versed on who you're voting for. So we'll get started with a quick lightning round. The way this will work is we'll ask a question really quickly. They'll raise their hand for yes and raise their hand for no. Go ahead, Martin.
First question, have you or will you take corporate donations? Raise your hand if that's a yes. Raise your hand if that's a no. All right.
Okay.
Is there any questions about that? I saw hesitation. Oh, sure. Raise your hand yes if you plan on taking any corporate donations, have or will. All right. Raise your hand no if you no to that. All right.
All right. Thank you. Raise your hand if you have been endorsed by the teachers union.
Yes to teachers.
They haven't endorsed any. Okay, that was an audience question. Sorry.
We're all learning together, right? That's the great part. Do you believe in public education? Raise your hand yes if you believe. Do you believe in public education? Raise your hand yes. Raise your hand no if you do not believe in public education. All right, great.
Okay. Are you or anyone in your family associated with an organization that would stand to gain from decisions you make as a school board member? Examples include a private entity buying land from the school district or a contracted company repairing schools. So raise your hand for yes. And raise your hand for no.
Yeah. Have you researched this role to understand the responsibilities? Examples include the Ohio School Boards Association. So yes, if you've researched this role. No, if you have not researched this role. Great.
Okay. Do you support abortion rights? Raise your hand for yes. I think it's a character question, and that actually came from the audience as well, so somebody care. All right, and raise your hand for no.
I know this one's going to be funny, but believe me, there's a reason for it. Do you enjoy playing strategy games? So examples might be Monopoly, Settlers of Catan, Age of Empires, StarCraft, or other types of strategy games. Raise your hand yes if you enjoy playing strategy games, and no if you don't. All right.
I like long walks too.
Do you have family currently attending CCS schools? Raise your hand for yes. And raise your hand for no. Okay, we'll do that again. Raise your hand for yes. And raise your hand for no. Okay, that was our last question for lightning round. I'll pass it on to Martin.
Thank you. So, as Kwesi said, I'm a deep researcher, just so you know. So Columbus Public Schools' latest 5-year financial projection from November outlines that we are currently spending beyond our means and predict a deficit in 2028. Last week, Governor DeWine proposed a budget reducing our state funding by $47 million, and I think we can all guess there's probably cuts coming on the federal side, exacerbating our ability to remain financially solvent. As a potential school board candidate, how do you plan on navigating this financial crisis while transforming our district to be excellent and equal? So we'll go again in alphabetical order.
Can you repeat that again, please?
Sure, I'll summarize it. We're facing some serious financial crisis in terms of our cash on hand, and we're spending more than we have right now. So as a potential school board candidate, how do you plan on navigating this financial crisis while transforming our district to be excellent and equal?
So in order to have that to be excellent and equal, I think we need to take and look at everything that we have and also compare it to previous years and also current data in order for us to be able to know where we need to go.
And sorry, I do just want to say, you have 1 minute to respond to these, so if you want to give a longer answer, I don't want you to cut yourself short, just so you know.
Yeah, so just to correct your, or to add to that number, the current budget that Wine introduced will give $500 million more to private and charter schools and take $100 million away from public schools. Obviously terrible. We're not going to get any help from the state, unfortunately. And the way we can fix this is by, we've lost 4,000 kids in our district since the pandemic. It's not all the pandemic's fault, but there's a lot of problems with that. The way we can fix that is as new board members to be cheerleaders for the district, to be encouraging people to come back to the district, to be leading by example, and to really improve the district through stability on this board, and let parents know that they can bring their kids back here. That's what's going to bring money back into the district. Thank you.
Yes, I believe that in order to offset that deficit, certainly we have to make the district a place where parents want to bring their kids. This has to be the #1 priority to bring those kids back into the district. But also, this is an opportunity for establishing some collective impact with our community partners, nonprofits, business partners, in order to leverage some resources to maximize the opportunity for our students, for our families within the district. I think this is a community effort in order to offset some changes, and changes are going to continue to happen. All right, and so we have to be able to lean into how do we, as a community, offset those deficits.
So I would like to start with the tax abatement issues that we are not actually receiving the monies from developers, and I'm not talking about your residents, from developers. They've been given kind of free or get out of jail free 5-year span of not paying their tax abatements that are due to the district. So ensuring that they do pay their dues to the school system is really important. I think we're getting away from the fact that the Ohio Constitution says that the state will take care of children going to school. So making sure that, and that's through taxes, so ensuring that they are definitely coming through and paying their dues as they receive the tax abatement.
That is an excellent question. That is the number one reason why I'm running. I am tired of everybody poo-pooing on Columbus Public Schools. Charter schools are failing more than Columbus Public. And if we can get that money back, if a kid goes to a charter school for 3 days, 2 days, that money stays over there. I would like to find a way that we get that money back, and for the transportation. So that's a big thing that I am working on right now. Before I even join the board in the future, is to help get that money back and to make Columbus Public School great.
Thanks for the question. I want to echo what you said earlier, and I think across the entire city of Columbus, not just in our school district, we give blank checks to real estate developers. We don't hold them accountable to use their money that we are subsidizing for them. It's ridiculous to me. It's a joke. We don't hold these people accountable, and we give them so much of our money. I also think we have a big problem with not engaging our community in every single decision that we make as a board, as a district. We need consistent input from our communities, from our families, from our parents, in order to make these decisions, because it's inevitable. And as school board members, our asses need to be in the building, in the State House. We need to be champions for this school district, and we need to make some noise and fight for our kids. So I appreciate that.
So, you know, with the list of candidates, it's always hard to kind of go towards the end because everything starts to sound the same. I say all that to say, understanding that I feel like, first off, Columbus City Schools is very resourceful in their partnerships, communityships, and the community itself. I do think that there's been misalignment with the funds and how they've been used, and so I think the more focal point is being able to kind of find out exactly where is it that we need to put our resources, who are our partners that have the resources that maybe we can leverage and actually pour into them a little bit stronger, and then in the same sense also allowing our community to kind of know where we stand, so up front where the deficit's going to be, where we might need their impact, and then how we can actually grow sufficiently. Over the last few years, from tax abatements to Ohio Constitution to the recent passed levy, at the end of the day, we still have to make sure that our kids are quality educated, and at the end of the day, that makes sure that your budget is your number one priority, and where you focus and put your money also supports your actions and efforts.
Thank you. I think one of the first things we need to do is have a strategic plan. We need to look at what we are doing and how we're spending our money. And are we spending money on things that really are not worth it? The bottom line is we want to provide a rigorous education for our students, and we need to look very carefully at everything we do. The other one is about, yes, we've lost 4,000 students, 18,000 students since 1995. We do a piss-poor job in Columbus City Schools of advertising the stuff that we do very well. And so we get students to go to charter schools, come back more more behind, and then we have to try to educate them. So I think we need to do a better job of recruitment. We need to start selling the really good things we do so that we can increase our enrollment. But more importantly, we need to look at our budget and see where we can put our money, where it will do the most and be most effective with our kids.
Thank you so much. And speaking of resources and strategic plans, last year in December of 2024, the Columbus City School Board voted to close 5 schools and the district's downtown administrative office. What is your perspective on these closures, and how do you plan to involve the community in discussions about future potential school closures?
I think it's important that we actually involve the community and making sure that we're actually getting feedback. And then also making sure that we are really focusing on what our students' needs are, because there are so many different needs that need to be met. And also, I believe that when we talk about not just the community, we need to actually talk to the parents to find out what their needs are. We need to also making sure that all of our students are being successful academically, socially, and emotionally. So there's things that we actually need to do to improve and make sure that we are partnering and trying to make changes and even expanding some of our existing programs that we do have.
I appreciate that question. That's really the main reason I'm here today is because our kids' school was on the closure list last year. There was no notification, there was no explanation of where our kids would go or the teachers who were part of that school. And thankfully, it was after much protesting from teachers and students. It was even though we were called liars by a couple folks on the board. The school was not closed, and it's problematic. We need to have a strategic plan. We need to look at both the demographics of our kids and where they're going, as well as the condition of the facilities. It's not just one or two of these things. So I think it's a bigger plan, but I think that's one of the main reasons I'm running is to assist in that process. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a great question, and I think what has happened, there's been a terrible job at transparency around the closures, why the closures, and involving the community with that decision. There was no access to that process, and it was just handled terribly. I think also it was a missed opportunity to really engage not just the community, the families within the district, but also the community writ large, because schools play a vital role in neighborhoods for kids, but also as community hubs. And so not engaging the community in a way and giving that feedback was certainly a missed opportunity, and that's what I would want to move forward to correct.
So my perspective is making sure that any change that you make, that you're involving the individuals that are involved in that change. So that would have been the parents in that area, as well as the administrators and the teachers. These are changes that are pivotal also to the community. So ensuring that the community is involved in these. And as has already been said, the transparency piece. We need to make sure that everyone that is involved in this change that is being made are aware of it. We're also thinking about the feeder schools. How are they notified? And so I feel like we need to really buckle down and make sure that we are transparent and that we're definitely utilizing some change management in the process. I can't say whether these schools that were closed down, it was relevant, but I can say, thank you.
Yes, that is a good question, and I got asked that a lot when I was getting my petition. And my thing of it is, the schools that I went into for mentor, they were horrible. I felt sorry for the students. I saw mice run through there and bugs and everything, so those schools needed a lot of work. So I understand where the closure came in. My elementary school that I went to was closed. So one of my things I would like to do, if we're gonna close the schools, I would like to keep the building for the community. Maybe make it an after-school program for the kids, get involved with the kids and the teachers, especially for the schools that are failing in that community. Keep that building for the parents and for the teachers, maybe an after-school program. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I grew up in Columbus City Schools, and for as long as I can remember, Columbus City Schools has been closing schools. And I don't think we understand that when we close a school, there are many, many, many resources inside of that building. People learn English as new Americans in those buildings. People get job skills in those buildings. People work in those buildings. And so it's a shame anytime that that decision is made. And it is even more of a shame, just as pretty much everyone else has said, when we do not engage the community in that decision. But what we also need to engage the community in is how we get to the point that we need to make decisions to close schools, that we think that that's the decision that we need to make at that time with our money and with our resources. Everybody, every neighborhood deserves the community hub that a school is. Everybody deserves that opportunity, and Columbus is already one of the most segregated cities in the country, and this does nothing but to perpetuate that and not erase us from that history that we're recovering from. Thank you.
So school closing is not an ideal situation at the end of the day. We're hurting students, community, teachers, custodians, everybody who's in there from day to day. At the end of the day, I also feel like it's a great opportunity to have a reset as well too. So looking at our communities, looking at what may happen as a pocket from the west side to the Linden community, to the south side, to Clintonville. Every community is different. So how can we actually take this opportunity to reset, figure out what resources are actually applicable and needed for those communities, and then wrap around as far as the school and being able to kind of pour into what we have, because from there we can make sure that we're retaining the students that we have, making sure that we're also providing affordable and equitable education and solutions, and then from there being able to grow back to a system that can support not only just thousands of students and hundreds of thousands to come, but more importantly also make sure that the communities are also reflective as well too. Thank you.
So I attended one of those meetings, and it was at between Eastmore and East High School. And the thing that I was struck by was that they had the plan and then asked the community to give input. It should have been the other way around. And when we're looking at this, this is a really serious question, especially when you are short on money. But the other thing is, some people talked about, some of our schools are absolutely in disrepair. And so we have to have data, we have to have communities involved, and as you said, every community is different in Columbus: west side, south side, east side, north side. So we need to look inward, not get somebody outside to come and consult, but use those in Columbus that understand Columbus City Schools, has a history with Columbus City Schools, and is able to do the right thing. It may mean some schools have to close, but we want to make sure the community is part of that discussion.
All right, thank you. Great answers. We're fielding questions from everybody, and we're trying to do our best with the limited time we have to condense it. A great suggestion, we're going to go in reverse order to make sure that you all get a chance to go first. Sorry about that. So, what will you do to ensure teachers and their collective needs are met?
Teachers and collective needs. Yeah. I think one of the things is we should be working with Columbus Education Association. But the other thing is, every single school needs different things depending on their population. And so we should be talking with teachers, but I think we should be in the schools doing audits in terms of finding out what are the resources, what do they have, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and then look at how we can provide the resources. One of the things teachers needs is quality professional development. professional development that meets the needs so that the students can get what they need in the classroom. So when I think about that, we need to talk to the teachers and also connect it to data. We can't just be giving resources if the data doesn't match. So we need to look at where are our strengths in the district, where are our weaknesses, and how can we help teachers make sure they're giving the most to the students that they are teaching.
To segue, not only just supporting the teachers in the district as well too, but also our teachers' aid, our supportive services, those of disabilities that are helping students in that pathway. How are we really diving into making sure that they have the curriculum, the resources, the actual building support that's needed, because they're also a different said population within the district as well too. So this is more of an umbrella approach of how we connect not only with the teachers union, with all of our building substitutes, all of our special services, to making sure that there is equity across the board for all the students within the district. In addition to, once again, going back to our community, there's partners that Columbus City School has that are very resourceful. So how are we able to kind of connect them and engage them so that they can also be a leveraging tool to being able to support in the classroom?
Thank you for this question. One of the central points of my campaign is I want to make sure that Columbus City Schools is the best place to work and to learn in our growing region. And that means that our teachers need to be paid attention to and adequately resourced. Like I said, I've witnessed multiple teacher strikes. The board is not an enemy of organized labor. The board should be a collaborator with those organizations. They support the heartbeat of this district, which are our teachers, and our teachers are supported by wonderful, super well qualified and overworked staff members like social workers, school nurses, people that provide IEP support. They all need well-rounded support to work well with one another to support each other in the building. And there are a lot of decisions to be made all across the district to address the unique needs across the city. So.
It's okay. One of the things that I truly believe that we need to work on is the school district that I live in is failing. And one of the things I would be excited about to be on the board is to go into that school and listen to the teachers to see what the need is. A lot of teachers feel like they're not being heard, and that's one of the things that we have to work on. And even the community and the parents to see exactly what we can do to rise up this school to be a good valued school in this area for the community. So that's one of the big things that I feel that needs to be done.
So in order to have successful students, we have to make sure that our teachers are successful as well. And giving them an opportunity to have a voice in this whole system is so vital. Yes, they are represented by the union, but it's the board's responsibility as well to make sure that we hear from them, not just through the union, but through them as well. And so I feel like making sure that we are allowing them to share what's going on in their everyday work with us is definitely a necessity.
Teachers and support staff are the backbone to schools. There's no schools without teachers, right? And so we have to lean in and make sure that we give them voice. We are meeting the needs, providing that professional development for them to not only expand, enhance their capacity as professionals, but also be able to share that with the students that they serve. But a lot of times, it appears that the professional development isn't for the teachers, it's more for what's the newest and latest practice that's out, right? As opposed to what is the needs that the students in that district, the students in that school really have, and how are we tailoring professional development that meets those needs.
Yeah, I agree with just about everything everyone has said so far. It sounds like we're all on the same page. For too long, there's been an adversarial relationship between the board and our teachers. My family walked the picket lines with the teachers in August of 2022 during that strike, and that was really a foundational moment for me and my daughter, kind of seeing her teachers out there and walking that line with them. We need more respect for our teachers. We need fair wages and the promise of a pension and these important things, and we need to stand up for them, and I'm happy that everyone up here sounds like they will be doing that, so that's great.
For me, I feel that as a board member, it is important for us to be visible and to also make sure that we are approachable, making sure we're going out into the community and working on building relationships and making sure that the teachers feel that they are heard and we're actually getting real feedback to where we can actually make real change. I think also that when we look at professional development, we also need to look into SEL being implemented into instruction and making sure that whatever needs they need for mental support as well, we need to make sure that we are doing those things. Another thing I would like to see is finding out what works. We may have other schools who are performing extremely well. We need to make sure we're taking note of that and implementing it into all of the schools and making sure that we are actually making real change that matters.
Thank you all so much. So we talked earlier about how State House legislation ultimately filters down to the school board. Right now, there's a lot of talk federally about DEI and statewide. How do you guys see this filtering down to the school boards? And what are the plans that you have in place to protect things like African American history?
Well, I don't know if people know, but Senate Bill 113 just dropped, which basically says that schools will not be allowed to have DEI officers, buildings, and that the school boards will be responsible for investigating if it's brought forward that anybody is doing DEI in schools. And so that's been put forth by Senator Brenner, and that is something we're going to have to deal with. One of the things that I find that in all of this, because we're dealing with it in higher ed, is that we're preemptively getting rid of stuff before laws are even passed. And so we have to be willing to make sure, especially because in Columbus City schools, we have immigrants, black and brown children, LGBTQ, that need to be protected. And so we have to decide, well, how are we going to stand up? How are we going to make sure we're true to our values? And it may not be DEI, but we are going to make sure that we're implementing equity and inclusion. And it may be called a different name, but we have to be committed to be able to do that.
To repeat the question, how do you see the talks on banning DEI filtering down to the school board, and what policies and procedures do you have in place to protect things like African American history?
That's fair. So, and thank you for repeating that as well, too. In my day-to-day profession, I have the opportunity of working with organizations that are trying to broaden what diversity looks and feels like and equity across the board and inclusion. I like to say it boils down to one word: respect. At the end of the day, it's about respecting everyone as who they are, how they show up, what they bring to the table. And in that case, as board members, you have to be part of the solution, not the problem. So I say all that to say, when it comes to how we teach our students, when it comes to education history and historically, that's not just about one said month as well too. That's about whatever the science course may be, and being able to kind of interject and support that as well across the day. But once again, that goes to respect to the homage of what's been paid throughout the years too. When it comes to whatever this may look like, as long as we are creating a system and an environment for the community, and the community is supporting us in what that looks like, we can champion that respect and support the educational quest. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you raise your hand for me if you're part of one of the sponsoring organizations that hosted this event today? Thank you. We are going to reach out to these people. We're going to get together and we're going to work together very closely over the course of several years, because the work is already being done. Diversity is our strength. It's the biggest strength that I got out of going to Columbus City Schools, and it was a huge culture shock going to a predominantly white institution after graduating from CAUS. We see the world differently in Columbus City Schools. We respect each other, we embrace each other, and we have each other at the end of the day. No matter what the troglodytes in the State House are doing to us and what they're going to be doing to us, we have each other. We have the diversity, we have the equity, we will have the inclusion, and we have the tools necessary as a community to solve these problems. We got each other's back. We do.
One of the things that I'm proud of is I had the chance to sit on the board that started the DEI at the Ohio Attorney General's office, and it's very sad. One of the things that I did learn is our difference made us all one, and to understand that, and I will definitely protect the African American studies, because they have to know, if you don't know where you come from, how do you know where you're going? So that's extremely important. So that's one of the things that we need to protect, and just respect each other and talk to each other about the differences that we all have and work together. It helps with the kids.
So I would submit to everyone to not get caught up in the fact that they're going to get rid of DEI, because we will practice that every day. It doesn't have to be labeled as DEI, as long as we understand that it's important to be inclusive. It's important to want someone to bring their unique self to the table. So I submit not to be caught up in the fact that they are going to take away DEI. We don't have to allow that to happen. It doesn't have to be shown as that. We just need to walk in the fact that everybody's uniqueness needs to be at the table. The other piece is we need to protect our Black history at all costs. It is necessary.
Some of the objectives of the district is to teach the whole child, as well as provide culturally relevant education. We said that's what we wanted. We stand on what we said, what we wanted. I don't think there's a matter of any laws or legislation that comes down that says we can't teach what we feel as a community we want taught in our schools. And so that's not just a board's responsibility, that's for all of us, right, to rally behind. This is what we believe in as a district. This is what we believe in as a community. That should stand, and we should stand firm in that moving forward.
I think diversity is our district's greatest strength. It's why we send our kids there. That is the way to raise a well-rounded child, is to be surrounded by people that are different than you. And my son's class has, I agree with that, again, with everything everyone said. I would just add to that, my son's class had 10 different languages spoken in it, and the teacher brought that up to us, not as a complaint as much as an opportunity. And I think another way we can support diversity and inclusiveness is by giving our teachers the tools that they need to respond to that, and make sure we create an inclusive environment that allows everyone in that class to participate. Thank you.
I feel that Columbus City School is being represented by a diverse culture, and I think that it's still important to have that. It is also important that we work with partnerships and other organizations who can actually expose our children to those things if we have to go outside of the school. I think we must continue to respect all people, but we also must use the tools and resources that we have available. And so this is one reason why it is important to vote so we can protect many of our rights. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's give a round of applause to the candidates. And also while I'm here, I want to shout out my team, Central Ohio Young Black Dems, and Jordan Hawkins, president of Ohio Young Black Dems.
Yeah, also a huge shout out to our candidates. I'm sorry, we were trying to do a wrap up. What is clear is, from all the cards I'm holding in my hand, all the cards Adriana's holding in her hand, y'all have a lot more questions, and we need to get you those answers. So, I have 2 calls to action for you. 1, take this sheet of paper, make sure you've evaluated these candidates, and then I want you to go to the next school board meeting, and I want you to evaluate what are the skills the school board has, what are the skills the school board's missing, and let's as a community figure out how we get the right slate of candidates on that board so that that board works as a team to help us as a community, right? So that's my first call out to you. My second call out, look for voter guides and look for all the information distilled from tonight. Look for us to ask all the questions that we couldn't get to tonight that we'll send to the candidates. We'll get that distilled and back out to you because there were a lot of great questions and we just can't get to it all, and it's a really deep discussion. I can't promise this. I feel like we gotta find a way to have another one of these.
More to come for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you to our moderators and our school board candidates. We're going to take a couple minutes and transition to the city council candidates and moderators, rearrange the stage a bit, and we'll be right back.
Good job, everyone. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Let's make sure that we're not leaving and that we're finding our seats. We're about ready. Can I get the city council candidates to come to the stage, please? I go. I go. All right, people, we have another panel coming to the stage. I know everybody has a bedtime. I know I do. It's all
You want me at the end?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Sounds good. Good work.
Hi,
Hi.
Quincy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How are we, what order, just alphabetical or how you want us?
Yes.
Okay.
Tell me
Tierra.
Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
And take a seat. Can we get another round of applause for our candidates who just left the stage? That was amazing. Thank you to the Columbus City School Board candidates for that insightful discussion. Very, very much needed discussion. I am Sydney Grayson, and I am proudly serving as an organizer with Columbus Stand Up. I am a recent graduate of the Central State University. I'm a Centralian, yes. As we continue the conversation of leadership and policy, I just want to thank Morgan and Quasi for bringing me on and allowing me to lead. This conversation is very, very crucial as what's going on. We see what's going on in Washington, but we have the opportunity to change what's going on in Columbus right now, okay? So I have the pleasure of introducing the moderators who will be leading the conversation between Columbus City Council candidates. As a young person in Columbus, I know that the decisions being made today will directly shape my future. So we have Tim Fulton, who is the host of Columbus Underground, and also Terea Palmer, who is the host of Columbus Can't Wait podcast, and they're both parents of Columbus City School students. Thank you guys so much.
It's Taria like Maria. Go the same way. Do we have the other wireless mic, please? Or no?
Everybody gets a mic this time.
It's fine if we don't. It's okay. Switch back and forth, is that okay? So, full disclosure, I am the host of the Confluence Cast presented by Columbus Underground. Thank you, one person who listens. That's about right, given my numbers. I'm also the person who put together columbusdistricts.com, where you can get information on the individual voting districts and demographic and crime information for those districts and how it's disparate from the rest of the city. Also, full disclosure, I sought appointment for this seat, and I was not chosen, and that is okay. And again, I am a proud dad. Ground rules are pretty much the same here. They will have 60 seconds to answer every question. They will have 90 seconds to do their intro. Full disclosure, we may follow up. However, they will not be addressing each other. If they would like to follow up, they have to ask our permission.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Taria Palmer, host of Columbus Can't Wait, a Black-led local podcast to more like 10 people that listen to my show. Thank you so much. And yes, as he said, I'm a parent of a Columbus City School third grader, so very invested in the community. I am married to a Columbus lifer who loves Columbus very much, and we live on the Near East Side, and so I'm happy to be here with you all today. So I want to switch over to our Columbus City Council candidates and give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Can we start with you, Kate?
Yeah. Hey, good evening. My name is, let me start that again. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, try it again. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, it's a little late, I know. My name is Kate Curry D'Souza, and I'm running for Columbus City Schools District 7. I have lived in what is considered now District 7 since 2001, so that's like 22 years. But consecutively since May of 2006. Columbus has been my home, and in many ways where I've grown up. I came here as an expectant parent. My oldest son actually turned 23 today. Yeah, and my younger son is a middle schooler in Columbus City Schools. I worked my way through college and I graduated from The Ohio State University in 2010. And I work for a large nonprofit connecting community resources to support schools. I'm passionate about community. This is where I learned about raising a family, and I've deepened my community and my connections here, and I've really worked on these collective experiences. While I was on the Near East Area Commission, I served 2 terms.
Sorry, we're gonna have to stop you, but thank you.
Okay, oh, I thought I had a second, sorry. Thanks, thank you.
You can go next, Tiara.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiara Ross, and I am running for Columbus City Council in District 7. I am running for City Council because I believe that our city can be a place where every resident has a voice and every resident has an opportunity to thrive. I was born here in Columbus, Ohio, to a family with a deep legacy of service in this community. My grandparents raised me. And at an early age, they instilled in me the importance and responsibility of service to my community. For 50+ years, they served the Tridestone Baptist Church in the Milo Grogan community. And it was there that I learned the concept of sacrifice and that I developed a genuine care for people. And it is that mandate of service that led me to be an assistant city attorney for Columbus City Attorney's Office. And for nearly a decade, I have worked with the city's Division of Police, Division of Fire, the city's Department of Building and Zoning Services, Columbus Public Health, neighborhood organizations, neighborhood leaders, and this community to advocate for quality, safe, and accessible housing to advance fairness and justice for every resident in the city of Columbus. As your next council person, I will prioritize neighborhood investment. I will fight for safe and affordable housing. I will make sure that every city resource is equitable, accessible, and available to all of our city residents. I look forward to sharing my vision with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Vogel, and I'm running for City Council in District 7 because I want to help build a Columbus that works for all of us. I'm a person who shows up to help. During the pandemic, while I was a student in law school, as our eviction court kept evicting folks, I watched as families who needed help didn't get the help they needed. So I built a community organization in collaboration with friends and neighbors to show up for neighbors facing eviction called the Central Ohio Housing Action Network that delivered information to the doorsteps of tenants at risk who needed some more help. Now I show up as a lawyer. I represent tenants and immigrants across the city of Columbus. And when I show up with my clients and my colleagues, I get results. Last year I met a woman who had lived in the Northland area and her apartment had changed management. And then her ceiling began to leak. Her management didn't answer her calls for help. Then the ceiling caved in. Me and my colleagues showed up, we fought for her, we got the ceiling fixed, and we got money back in her pockets from the landlord. Today, I'm running for City Council because now is the time to show up for all of Columbus. I hope that once you listen to my plans tonight, you'll show up with my campaign to engage neighbors and vote May 6th to make a better Columbus.
Thank you. So let's get started with our first question, and that first question focuses on quality of life. There are plenty of people who are living in Columbus who are thriving, but there are so many more who are not. I want to hear about what policies or initiatives do you believe will have the most significant impact on improving the quality of life for Columbus residents? We can start with you, Jesse.
Sure. Well, as a lawyer watching people struggle with these issues, I'm first and foremost concerned with the issue of making sure everyone in Columbus has a safe and affordable place to live. I'm concerned that today I've seen folks, including a gentleman I met earlier this year who had lived in a place for 15, 20 years that had been kept affordable by a family owner. But when she died, it fell into the hands of an out-of-state LLC, and this individual and his neighbors were displaced, and they don't live in Columbus anymore. Our city is at risk because we're losing communities, and we're losing communities because we lack a strategy to deliver affordable housing for all. If I get elected to city council, what I'll do is make sure we have an opportunity to build deeply and permanently affordable housing using taxpayer dollars, and make sure that we elevate this issue and build a strategy to deliver for folks across the city.
Thank you, Jesse.
I have a feeling we're not going to be far apart on our values for the city of Columbus, but I really want to focus on what we've gotten away from here in the city, and that's real community and bringing government back to real people. We quite often get caught up in our own echo chambers, and so we're listening to people, the privileged few who have access to City Hall and who can make it there. And we very rarely are going out to talk to real people. Oftentimes these folks are wholesale missed by city resources. One, they don't know about the rich resources that we have as a city, and then two, if they do know, there are too many barriers to access those resources. It is my goal, one, to make sure that I am ever present in every community, to make sure that the privileged few are not the ones we're always listening to, but we're listening to our entire community. Community is going to bring us the solutions to our problems. It is going to be our job to build strategy around how to deliver those solutions. But we can't do that if we are not present. And so we need to start showing up to real people in real places.
Can you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. What policies or initiatives do you believe will have the most significant impact on improving the quality of life for Columbus residents?
So housing obviously is a big part of it, but also so is food. At this point, there's so many individuals who are really so worried about how they're going to be able to afford Columbus. In the time that I served on the commission and the 3 years that I was as chair, that is food, just affordability is so hard for so many folks. And I think that in our quest to try to bring Columbus into this, move towards this big city, we've left a lot of people behind. And so my quest is to make food hubs where we have affordable food in people's neighborhoods where they, at this point, don't, because we have a lot of areas that are food deserts. And so that is part of my policy, is to have food hubs where we have community gardens and we have local farmers and we have access to clean and healthy food for individuals. And then also to have vacant homes. We don't need to have them be vacant. We can have those be reassessed and be reevaluated so people can be living in those. And that can be that's a city function through code. And so that is, those are part of my policy planks. Thank you.
Great, thank you all. Kate, we're gonna stick with you and then come back down the line. How should the city at large, how should city government handle increasing gentrification and displacement, particularly in historically Black and working class neighborhoods?
It's a huge, huge concern on the Near East Side. A lot of elders are really, really concerned about the affordability of their homes. And I think that that's a big concern. So part of that is to look at how do we help elders age in place. Part of that is helping elders have access to how they keep their homes affordable by fixing them. And so do we have programs that will help them attain home repair programming, and how will they be able to access that? And then what are we doing to advocate? We need to be bridge building. We need to be thinking about how are we actually talking to state lawmakers to talk about those safety nets that don't exist for veterans, that because they're priced out of the safety nets that are for low-income seniors and for low-income individuals, that would help them reduce those costs on their property taxes. Just because it's not a city function doesn't mean that we don't have a solution, and we should be looking for those and ways to help reduce those costs for individuals so they're not priced out of their homes. And I think that that's something we should be doing as the city, and we can do it, absolutely.
I actually happen to have a really intimate connection to how we have, as a city, helped our seniors to stay housed we were able to, through the city attorney's office, initiate what is called the owner-occupied initiative. And while we do enforce code in our city and we do prosecute slumlords in our city, we understand that we have folks that come before the criminal justice system, which is wild, because they cannot fix the things that have been broken in their homes. And so instead of them coming to an adversarial system, we are addressing those issues and bringing resources to them right now. We don't need to do it, we are doing it, and we should build the capacity for the initiatives that we have started so that we can keep our seniors housed. I truly believe in that, and I think that there are processes and procedures already in place and systems already in place, and we need to grow that capacity so that we can move those resources upstream. It should not take a lawsuit being
That's better, but my mic is now so quiet. This mic is not as quiet. Is it my mic? Oh, wow. Maybe it was just my mic. We're going to trade back and forth. Jesse, sorry.
Thanks. Well, really important question, and I'm familiar with the owner-occupied unit program that Tiara references and believe it's important. I guess the tweak that I'd add is that I think this comes back to the issue of what's our strategy to keep communities in place. Let's build one. I know that last year, in the past few years, our voters passed $250 million in affordable housing bond strategy and authority for our city to raise money. We ought to invest that long-term in deeply and permanently affordable housing and make it a priority so that we don't allow folks like the people I meet to get pushed out. Finally, as I knocked doors to collect petitions in Old Town East around the neighborhood I lived, I met families talking about this issue who experienced displacement. We need to support property tax relief like that through the Franklin County auditors and treasurer's offices.
Did you figure out which one it was? I can change it out. Okay.
Thanks for your patience, folks. Okay, next question. There are countless families, some that I'm looking at in the audience, that have been impacted by police violence in Columbus, as well as countless communities. How do you plan to address concerns about policing and accountability in your role in Columbus? We can start with you, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a painful issue for so many in our community and so close to us, so close to so many. And it breaks my heart, and it makes me think about what can I do as an advocate and as a council member to show up for those families intimately tied to police violence. One thing that I'm interested in and have as a priority is to continue to support the work that advocates and council members are doing to address making sure that when somebody's experiencing a mental health crisis, they get the right kind of response with the right kind of support and not necessarily the police. But in addition, I think we need to look and evaluate across the city our first responder system to make sure that folks have the resources needed such that emergencies are addressed appropriately. I'm somebody, as I mentioned, who likes to show up in community, and I'm committed to working with folks across the community to dive deep on this issue and get results.
I am proud to serve as Deputy Chief of the Property Action Team for the Columbus City Attorney's Office, but I also serve as the General Counsel for the Inspector General for the police here in the City of Columbus. I serve as a liaison to the Civilian Police Review Board here in the City of Columbus. And after George Floyd, I actually had a full circle moment. I started at the City Attorney's Office when Mayor Ginther had started what's called the Safety Commission. And I liaisoned that group, and a couple of you were a part of that commission. And they issued about 40 recommendations on how to bring the Division of Police to a place where we were appropriately serving our community. And then George Floyd happened. And all of a sudden, we were looking for those 40 recommendations that we had already given to bring our Division of Police to a place where they were appropriately serving our community. And so I called my good friend, Dr. Jones at Franklin University, and I said, here's what I see. I teach search and seizure at the academy, and we're recruiting officers to come to the academy that are from cities that look nothing like the city of Columbus.
Tiara. All right. Kate?
I'm not really sure where community policing picked up and left off, but it left a long time ago. And I have 2 kids. I worry about them every time they leave our house. I worry about my husband every time he leaves our house. And I don't think I should have to worry about that, just like you shouldn't have to worry about your family members when they leave your home. And I don't even know that they're really safe in our home sometimes either. But I think that we need to have accountability of our public officials and our servants that are supposed to serve and protect. That's part of being part of a community. And we should have an opportunity to have accountability with that. But also that, you know, when we've had community liaisons, we've had experiences in the community where they're not actually that engaged. And they're throwing things out of the car at kids, and you know, it's like Halloween, but it's not really engagement. So we don't need that. We need something different. And so we can have that, but we need to demand it. And we need to expect that from our public officials, and that comes from the top down. And so as a council member, that will be a top priority, to expect different from those that we employ as a city, and we will expect different from that.
Do you mind if I follow up?
I do not mind if you
I
follow
think
up.
it's important.
30
I think
seconds.
as a black woman, and specifically, it's important for me to finish this thought. We started the community immersion training. It's a first of its kind, 192-hour training to address putting tools in the toolboxes of our officers that they need when they're engaging with our community. Because we do too much recruiting in rural communities that don't look like the city of Columbus. The officers come back and they're indoctrinated for 6 months at our academy, and they're given a badge and a gun and said, go to the library, because it's dangerous there. It isn't. And so the goal is to make sure that our officers are equipped with the resources that they need to serve our community effectively.
Thank you
And I'm
very
doing
much.
the work and will continue to do the work.
I will. 30 seconds to Kate.
Respectfully, I worked at the Columbus Urban League before I came to the other nonprofit that I work for. And when I interacted with a lot of the police officers that were coming through some of that programming that was mentioned, it seemed to us when we were working there, and I only speak for myself because I'm not a representative of the Columbus Urban League, but as an employee who was there at the time, it seemed like a lot of box checking. And so what we don't want is when people come for cultural experiences into the community is box checking. We want actual change for our police officers who are coming to actually work for the city of Columbus. And if they're gonna come and work in communities, then they need to be respectful of the communities that they're supposed to be serving and protecting, and that's not it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse, I'm going to start with you. How should the city approach economic development incentives for corporations? What guardrails would you put in place to ensure they benefit residents?
Well, I go back to this issue of how do we show up with community. I'm concerned about making sure that when our city uses its resources and provides incentives to companies coming in, that we're engaged in dialogue with our neighbors about what we're getting for the city's resources. I think we need to look carefully at that. And I think city council can play a more robust role in looking at that and addressing the needs of the community. I'm concerned that we make sure, for example, when we're giving incentives to development, we're getting something for it in terms of partnerships with workforce development in our city schools, or in terms of making sure that housing has deep affordability for people who live at all income levels, and additional tenant protections to make sure tenants aren't forced into subpar housing because of needless evictions.
I actually agree with that. I think it is important that we make sure that we are calling back the developers for the things that we have required of them to do in order to receive those incentives. And I don't think we do enough of that. I'm going to tell you right now that housing is a crisis here. It's been a crisis, and we're kind of late. We need housing that is affordable at every level, for every bracket of income, so that we can release the pressure on our most vulnerable populations. And we just don't have it. We need to build more housing, we need to preserve our affordable housing, and we need to make sure that when we are giving developers these incentives to develop, because they're going to need it, because it doesn't make a good deal without the incentive, that we are calling them back and making sure that they are giving back and pouring back into the community.
Sorry.
Yeah, repeat the question.
Oh, yes, of course.
I got caught up in what they were saying.
No, it's okay. How should the city approach economic development incentives for corporations? What guardrails would you put in place to ensure they benefit residents?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I saw so many times on the commission was just that we had a lot of developers coming in, but what was the neighborhood actually getting from this? And that was the frustration. And that's also part of the reason why I'm running, because so many times the neighborhood would have frustrations with developments, but where would it go, right? Because you'd bring it to city council, and what do you get from that, right? Like, there's no outcome. And so we really need to have, and in historic neighborhoods where our neighbors have been redlined out of the area and didn't get due process or respect from that experience, that's not acceptable. So we need to have some changes with that, where there's more accountability to the developers who are gonna come correct when they're presenting to those neighborhoods, and they're actually respectful to those neighbors who've built those neighborhoods to be what they are. And that also means then that they're providing jobs to Columbus City School students. That means that we need to make sure that there's opportunities for them to actually get in. When we have places like Intel coming, are there jobs for Columbus City School students at Intel? We wanna make sure that our students are prepared for that.
Great. You may have 30 seconds, Jesse.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a good point about Intel, because Columbus, we live in a regional economy where we have large projects coming in to various parts of the region outside of our city. And so what I'd also like to see on council is an advocate who's willing to say, when those kinds of projects are putting additional strain on our infrastructure, for example, having to build water pipes that are 16 feet on the back of Columbus water ratepayers, we fight to get a good deal.
Thank you. I'm just teeing it up here. We have a round of candidate-specific questions, and then we will get back to questions that are sort of going down the line.
So this question came from the audience, and this question is for Kate. I live near Clintonville. Should I get to vote for District 7 candidates, or should we end Columbus's citywide voting rules for all city council districts?
I voted for when the ballot came up, where there was an opportunity to have districts where you live in the district and the signatures come from the district and you get to vote inside your district. I believe in that. And I think that we should have change for that, because I think that if you're going to have accountability to the people that live in your district, we have accountability to Miss Norma next door because we live next door to her. And if you're going to have accountability and you want equity in elections, then it's really hard to run an election for 900,000 people versus 100,000 people. And if you want it so that people can actually come in and run an election, and you want to tell your children you can do this when you grow up and you can join into this process of being a representative of your city, it's really hard to do that when you're priced out of that process. And so that's why we want to have equity and we want to have representation within our neighborhoods. It's harder to do that when you're trying to talk to 900,000 people across the whole city. And also in the reverse, when they're trying to talk to you in another district, how do they know? How can we talk to each other? That's harder to do. I don't mind being thoughtful about that. But I think that we need to have accountability.
And I want to offer you a challenging follow-up. This is for you, Kate, specifically.
Okay.
Does it make it harder then to fundraise and actually run a competitive campaign when you have to compete citywide?
Well, I'm competing.
Okay.
So we're doing it, right? But we're doing it just because it's the only way, because this is what city council set up, right? And because we're forced into this. But is this really the best representation of all of our neighbors in our district? Is this really the best that we can do in the city of Columbus? Or can we have something better and more representative for all of you? Because we're gonna be accountable to you because it's smaller. And because you're gonna see us in your area, because it's 100,000 people that you can actually get a hold of us and we're more accountable to you. Because then we will be your people.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, that was misleading. I should have said to you 30 seconds. So, Kate, thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse, you raised over $70,000 over the course of 2 months. Congratulations. It was significantly more than other candidates, certainly on the stage with you. How do you respond to concerns that your campaign is driven by larger donors rather than grassroots support?
Well, I've raised money because from lots and lots of donors, from 600 or something folks from my life, across people I've met in bars and said, can you give me some money because I'm doing something important. We're doing something important in Columbus. I'm so excited about the work we're able to do in Columbus to build a grassroots campaign to support a goal of building something that works better for all of us. So, in terms of that concern, I think that it's not warranted. I think we're building support because that's how you make change. You have to build a big bench. You have to build a base to support and get important and bold things done. And I'm not somebody who wants to rely upon money coming in from existing power brokers in the city. I'm somebody who wants to be able to get on city council and be an independent thinker and be an advocate for all of us.
Thank you. Tiara, there's been recent discussion in the media about your transition to residency in Columbus. How do you address concerns that you may not be fully embedded in the community you seek to represent?
I'm so proud to be from the city of Columbus and to live right across the street from the hospital in which I was born in, to a single mother, to have lived for 6 years on Livingston and Berkeley, and then to have moved in with my grandparents for lack of resource mentally and even in our village. And I have been committed to the city of Columbus. My family has been deeply embedded in the city of Columbus. My grandparents served as pastors of the Tridestone Missionary Baptist Church, which is a church in District 7, for over 50 plus years. I've served for over 30 plus years at that church. I still serve at that church and worship at that church. I had friends in the neighborhood on Gibbard Avenue and on 3rd Avenue, friends that I lost from gun violence. I am so committed to this community that I drove for 19 miles every day for over almost a decade to work at the city attorney's office to serve the people of the city of Columbus. And I moved into the district so that I can be able to continue to advocate on a bigger scale for the folks that I have served for the last 37 years.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and start with Kate, or I'll start with Jesse. I'm starting with Jesse. This is a full panel question. How should the city approach infrastructure investment to ensure equitable access across all neighborhoods?
Well, I'm fired up about investment in infrastructure and in transit and in sidewalks and in bike lanes because I know that that's what we need to make this city work for everyone. I had a client who lived downtown and had to get to work at the airport to work at a low-wage job, and she told me that she sometimes Ubered to work. So infrastructure right now is not working to help get people where they need to go safely. I'm so excited that our city passed Link Us, this massive historic investment in bus rapid transit and infrastructure for bike lanes and sidewalks. I want to get on council and see that that money is spent right. And we need as a touchstone fast, accessible, reliable transit service for all. And I'm excited to make sure that happens.
And I remember driving the 2 up and down High Street from Moritz College of Law to my first internship, and remember being like, I'm actually not sure if the bus is going to get here on time so that I can get to work on time. And I believe that transportation and housing are linked together. And I think that in order for us to build density and corridors that make sense so that we can have more housing, we have to have good public transportation so that people can get to the places that they need to go, so they can get to work, so they can get to the grocery store, so they can have the resources that they need. And we need to be really, really looking toward building walkable communities. If I want to walk to get to the things that I need to get to, I should be able to walk to get to the things that I need to get to the places that I need to go. And if I am going to use public transit, I should be assured that my bus is going to get there on time, and that I'm not going to be late to work, and that it's not going to take me 4 or 5 hours just to get groceries. And so I am excited to see the work that council has done. First, I'm proud of the work that our city has done and the legislation that has been passed. I'm excited to build capacity.
So it's not just transit, right? We've kind of talked about that, but it's also your lights, right? Like, we have infrastructure that we have that isn't working. And so why is it that when you go outside and your lights aren't working, and then you really don't have a way to connect through the 311 system, which I think is a little bit underdeveloped, and we don't have a way for people to feel safe. And so when we talk about why are our neighborhoods not what they could be, right? You want your children to be able to get to the bus stop safely, right? But it's dark outside and the lights are not working, right? And you want them to be able to get to the bus stop, and you want them to be able to get places, but we don't have the infrastructure built up the way that it should be. And Columbus is spread out in far ways that is not supportable, right? And we have not done enough to support some of our outerlying areas. We do not have rec centers. We do not have some of the support out there for kids, for families that belongs out there. If Columbus wants to be the city that's going to grow in the way that it needs to be, then we need to be looking at some of the outerlying areas that Columbus exists, and we need to be looking at the infrastructure that needs to exist out there and support those folks, because they don't have access to what they need.
All right, folks, here's another question. How will you ensure that your campaign and service in office remain accessible and accountable to all residents, not just political insiders? Jesse.
Well, I mean, it starts by building a broad-based campaign and getting people excited. In January, I helped knock 1,500 doors with friends, neighbors, volunteers across the district to have one-on-one conversations with folks about what they want to see to make a better Columbus and make it work for all. I'm going to continue that work as an advocate and as a campaigner, and hopefully on council. And I think one thing I'm committed to is continuing to sit down with community members. I'm concerned on housing, for example, about the large number of experts in our community who know about homelessness and what that means and how people are experiencing that, and who know about, why people are struggling to stay safely housed, and who know about education and what's going on in our schools. We need working groups to be in constant dialogue with those folks to help them show up in city council and help them be stronger advocates, because we're at risk here. We need to bring us all together.
I'm going to go back to something I said at the beginning, which is bringing government back to real people and building community, and making sure that folks are not seeing the representative of the council person, but are actually seeing the council person, and that we are going out into neighborhoods that largely don't get to see our electeds. They don't get to interface with our electeds. They don't know what decisions we are making that affect their daily lives every day. And I think that we need to bring it out from the sky. It's not rocket science. Make it digestible for real people. I have spent my career in neighborhoods that are so derelict and people that are struggling so much that they don't have the capacity to think about the things that we want them to think about. They actually want to know how they're going to put food on their table. They want to make sure that their kids are able to go to school and be safe. And I think that if we are not rebuilding the infrastructure of how we engage in our communities and making sure that we are consistently out there, we're really not going to be able to solve the real issues that folks are going through every day.
Thank you.
I think that the community starts with an individual, and it starts with a bridge, and it starts with a connection. When I moved here, that's what it started with. Every neighborhood I've ever lived in, that's what it's been like. When I was on the commission, the first thing I did was put my personal email address and my cell phone number on there. That's not going to change when I'm on city council. Take it down, 614-403-2225. It's not going to change because it hasn't changed in over 20 years. I've always been an accessible person in the community, and that's my plan on city council. That's part of being part of the community. I'm an independent. It's a nonpartisan race. I'm not part of a party. So this is part of being part of accountability in the community, is because you need to be able to get a hold of me and be able to know who I am. Ask my neighbors, right? That's part of being accountable. And then come talk to me, right? If something I did wrong, sometimes I've been pulled aside by an elder, and I had to apologize. That's part of being part of a community. Sometimes it means that I did something right, and it was a good thing, right? But that's being part of a community. We have to be accountable to one another. We have to be able to make mistakes. We have to be able to do things right and move forward.
Thank you. We're going to change your closing argument because school board didn't really have the opportunity to do it either. And it is a question in two parts. I highly encourage you that as soon as 30 seconds is up, that you move on to the second part. I won't stop you, though. What is Columbus doing well, and what is Columbus not doing so well? And please don't mention anything you've already mentioned tonight. It's not a game show.
Surprise, surprise.
And Kate, I'm throwing it to you first.
Sure.
What is Columbus doing well, and what is Columbus not doing so well?
We are growing a lot in our opportunities with business, and we can have more opportunities to support small business. We have lots of things that we've done with New Americans, and we can do a lot more to support them. Look at Morse Road. You can look at all the growing businesses that are out there, and that's something that's really great. We are a welcoming city, and people want to move here, and that's a great thing. But we can do more to do that. We need to do more to support youth, and we need to do more to support elders. And so those are some growth opportunities that we have to think about how we're going to help elders as they age. And then we're also going to need to think about how we help youth as they think about their workforce opportunities, as they finish through Columbus City Schools. What can we be doing to support Columbus Promise? That's an investment that we made. What is the return on that investment? I would like to see us think that through more so we get more out of that investment as we move forward through that money that we've put into Columbus State.
Great, thank you.
I think that Columbus is doing well when I see the first Black woman Franklin County prosecutor standing in the back. I think that we are doing well because we are thinking consistently about the root causes of why people are going through the things that they are going through. And instead of trying to discipline through enforcement, we are trying to provide resources to folks so that we can really provide transformative change in our community. I think we're doing well, but we've just started to think about that. So there's growth there. We just started. We need to continue to do that and build infrastructure around that. I think we also, as a community, need to vote.
Not doing so well?
Full stop, period.
Okay. Jesse, doing well, not doing so well.
Well, Columbus is a great place to live. I love Columbus. I was born here. I've lived and worked here for years. And what I love about it is its vibrancy and how it's attracting people from all over the state and all over the world. I get to walk into Upper Cup Coffee around the corner from my house, or I get to walk into, the numerous LGBTQ-owned community places and bars and restaurants and centers across District 7, which is rich in that. But what I think Columbus can do better is protect its people. I'm scared about what we see coming out of the White House and what we see coming out of the State House. And I know that what we have to do is to protect one another and show up for one another. And so that's why I'm really excited about this race. And I'm really excited about all you showing up in this room tonight, because to Ms. Ross's point, we got to vote. We got to get out and campaign.
Thank
and
you.
I'm excited about the future we can build together.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the candidates. As always, we remind you to vote, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you to the
Thanks, everyone.
moderators.
We're going to turn it over to Morgan real fast.
Okay, before everyone heads out, thank you to all of the candidates, moderators, and partner organizations for making tonight possible. Thank you to Newbirth for hosting us and Columbus Underground for being our live stream partner. The audio was low, but we are still grateful. Thank you, everyone who's watching at home. And building off of what we were just hearing, there is an attack on the utility of government at the national level, at the state level, whether or not it has a role in our country at all. And part of why that attack has been successful is because people have not felt government delivering for them. And usually what's driving that, if you talk to people, we found in our organizing, is an experience at the local level of government. That at the city level of government, that has not been their experience, and it is not tangibly improving their lives, and it trickles up to all the other elections that get a lot more attention in the media. That changes today. So the reason why Columbus Stand Up hosted this forum so early is that you all had a chance to get this information and take it, and not just check back in when early vote starts on April 8th, but use the next couple of months to get behind these people who moved you to make you believe in government again, to show the people who are skeptical that that is not the direction of the country that we want to see moving forward. So find somebody, canvass for them, knock doors, send texts, whatever, but the conversation does not stop today, it begins today, and we look forward to being in touch until November. Thank you.